I don't know, man. Part 1 was kinda boring, and you're telling me that there's 8 more seasons of this? Trust me, man, just play the first episode of Part 2, and I promise you, you'll love it. Alright.
After a rocky success with Phantom Blood, he knew quitting wasn't an option. As in 1987, he created the world-renowned JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 2, Joseph Joestar, His Proud Lineage. I don't like that title. There we go! During the 80s, most shonen anime were all about insanely muscular men who punch good. However, Araki found a way to change that formula with more strategic battles that he'd further develop with his later works. A majority of people can agree that battle tendency blows Phantom Blood out of the water, and it's how most people really got into the series. The cast is so much more likable with an engaging, fast-paced story that the anime just brings to life with a crazy animation and a soundtrack that does not miss.
And nobody is as excited for the big celebration as I am.
I actually like Part 1 better than Part 2.
Not scientifically possible!
Today, I'm gonna remind us all how Part 2 made everyone fall in love with the series. So get oiled up with the boys, protect your treasure, and remember who the bad guys are as we jump 50 years into JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 2, Battle Tendency, the birth of the ultimate. Battle Tendency is 17 episodes and 69 chapters. Nice. 31 years after the events of Phantom Blood, Arena and Jonathan had a son named George Joestar II, a proud British fighter pilot who fought bravely in World War I. He eventually married a woman named Elizabeth, and they had a child of their own. Okay, so far so good, but remember guys, this is JoJo. The Joestars were screwed the moment they were born. Despite Dio's death, his will lives on. As a vampire snuck into the Royal Flying Corps as a commander, the very organization that George 2.0 belonged to. Our most curious of Georges noticed something was off about the commander. Once he realized the truth, it was too late, as George Joestar II had died. Elizabeth went into hiding not long after, leaving Arena Joestar all alone with her grandson. The end. And that's the end of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 2, Battle Tendency. Very short, and not gonna lie, I really don't get what all the hype is about, so 4 out of 10, see ya. There's actually a light novel called George Joestar that goes more into his life as a fighter pilot, written and illustrated by Otaro Mayo for the Versus JoJo event, where artists and authors wrote stories of iconic characters. Although George may be dead, he's not our main character. His son is. 18 years later in New York, 1938. While World War II was all the rage these days, we start off with our boy Smokey Brown, a mischievous kid who goes around the streets pickpocketing tourists. Although the cops aren't too happy about that, and give Smokey a rational, level-headed explanation on why stealing is bad.
I'm gonna make sure they lock you up for 20 years.
Remember guys, this is the 30s. Smokey just has a bit more melanin than most people are used to seeing back then. Plus, the racial undertones were way more upfront in the manga. Fear not, Smokey, as this comically large British man is a warrior of equality, giving the cops what for, all while enjoying the delicious taste of a refreshing Coca-Cola. Don't sue me! This is the son of George II and grandson of Jonathan, our new JoJo, Joseph Joestar. Over in Mexico, we get introduced to the Bill Gates of this world, our buddy's Speedwagon. After discovering oil, he used his immense fortune to create the Speedwagon Foundation for medical and environmental research. Speaking of environmental research, he and Straitso explore some ancient ruins only to find a pillar surrounded by the very stone mask that gave them such trouble 50 years ago. Luckily, Straitso knows just what to do.
I just took the lives of all these men.
And I just shat myself. Thanks, Captain Obvious. After witnessing Dio's immense power, Straitso secretly desired to obtain his immortal youth and strength for his own selfishness. He plans to kill Joseph Joestar before he becomes a serious threat. After a bonkin' Speedwagon, he heads to New York. This is only the first episode, and we already have our main antagonist. Dio was like a serious threat back in part 1, and with Straitso, who knows all of his techniques, I don't know how Joseph is gonna manage. After Joseph and Smokey indulge in some 1930s racism, they're chilling at a cafe. Jojo notices a strange individual creeping out the window. Jojo takes the bait and walks up to Straightso, who readies himself to kill. And this was the exact moment when Joseph Joestar became everyone's favorite character. Although that's not enough to stop Straightso and his vampiric powers. He uses the very same technique that killed Jonathan on Joseph. Yet Jojo is a bit smarter than the average bear, using Looney Tunes style tactics to trick Straightso and eventually overpowering him, winning the fight. So much for the main antagonist, but this basically tells us that Joseph Joestar could mid-diff Dio Brando. Before Straightso's demise, he tells Jojo of a new threat they found in Mexico. The Pillarmen will soon awaken. Joseph heads to Mexico to see the Pillarmen, but is stopped by some horny guards. What sort of dastardly trick will Jojo use this time?
Next!
All I've got under my skirt is more tequila, big boy.
I'm not proud of what I've done. Meanwhile, Speedwagon is alive and wakes up to see himself surrounded by 1930s German soldiers. Oh no. Remember guys, this is the 30s during World War II, so these aren't normal German soldiers, they're...
Speedwagon.
Oh, Speedwagon.
The subbed version just hits different. Using the blood of Mexican prisoners, cause the Nazis are not good people, they awaken the Pillarman, Santana. This is the main antagonist of part 2. God damn it. Seemingly a primitive creature, Santana's intelligence skyrockets in seconds, along with the strength that far surpasses an ordinary vampire, making Santana the pinnacle of the food chain. Santana manages to slip through the air vents and starts his killing spree. Jojo isn't a horror manga, but man, it easily could be. Just in the nick of time, Joseph comes to save Speedwagon and put a stop to Santana.
I don't want to assume he's evil just because he killed a bunch of brainless...
But are you insane? If he's not evil, why did he kill all my men?
Stroheim. All of you are World War II German soldiers. How did you not see this coming? The quirky Joseph tries his usual tricks, but Santana is a being who far surpasses the ancient game of Tag You're It. Thanks to Santana's superior strength and years of daily yoga, the Pillarmen far outclasses Jojo. Thankfully, Joseph is a master of trickery and manages to deal some major damage to Santana, but it's not enough. What they really need is sunlight to finish the job. Jojo and Stroheim work together to bring Santana into the sun. With one final act of desperation, Santana squirms his way inside of Stroheim. Are you sure I'm not reading a fanfic right now? Before Stroheim sacrifices himself to the fatherland, he warns Jojo of an even greater threat. They've discovered the identity of 3 more Pillarmen. If Jojo is to defeat these creatures, he must head to Rome to train with the Master of Haman. Stroheim sacrifices himself, but just like Vegeta, it was all for nothing, as Santana is still alive and charges at Jojo into the well. Using the water's reflection of the sunlight, Jojo manages to petrify Santana. He's won the fight, but the war has just begun. After facing an insane, once-in-a-lifetime near-death experience that make most people go crazy, Joseph takes a relaxing vacation in Rome.
You think you're funny putting black ink all over my spaghetti, is that right?
Don't worry, I'll fix that spaghetti.
Out of the corner of his eye, Jojo finds the Sasuke to his Naruto, an Italiano warrior of Haman who's got a +20 in charisma. This is Caesar Zappelli, the grandson of Will Zappelli. Caesar blames Joseph and Jonathan for his grandfather's death and believes his win against Santana was a complete fluke. Both enraged and probably horny for each other, battle it out.
Like to see my maneuver sure to eliminate the Pillarmen?
Okay, Caesar, if you're such a big shot, what can you do?
Behold, my Hamon bubble launcher!
That's your ultimate strategy against the pinnacle of evolution? Just Oh wow, you sure showed them, Caesar. They won't know what to do about Bubbles because it's so fucking stupid. After a underwhelming display of powers, the two come to a truce in order to fight the bigger threat. They get picked up by Mark, the nicest of the Nazis, really doesn't say a whole lot, who takes them to the Pillarmen. The soldiers investigate the petrified warriors, only for one of them to awaken and start attacking the German army. You're welcome, allied nations. The Aztec warrior releases his comrades from their 2,000-year slumber. These are the Pillarmen, 3 great beings whose strength far surpasses Santana, AC/DC. Yes, like the band. Wamu, a proud, noble warrior, also named after a band, and their leader Cars, which, yup, you guessed it, also named after a... Team Joestar enter the scene, only to find corpses left behind. Like a man stepping on an ant, Wamu casually walks past Mark, unaware of his feeble existence, as the German boy's body is split in half. Imagine being so unbelievably jacked that you can just split people in half just by brushing past them. If that ain't body positivity and goals, I don't know what is. Appalled by his Access brother's death, Caesar prepares to face their biggest challenge yet.
And they killed him. Now they die! Caesar!
I just love how in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, no matter how serious, sad, or gruesome a scene gets, the characters just always find the need to dramatically pose during it. Caesar charges in with his killer strategy, but Wamu easily brushes them aside, cause, again, they're fucking Bubbles. What were you thinking? Wamu overpowers Caesar. Wanting in on the action, Joseph swings into battle with his new cracker volley weapon. Through clever trickery, he actually hurts the Aztec warrior. However, a simple scratch won't be enough, as even Joseph's plot armor isn't thick enough to handle a tornado. A clever trick, but Wamu is on to Jojo's lies. Following him down a level of Donkey Kong Country, they end up outside. With Joseph unable to move, Wamu goes in for the finishing blow. However, Joseph uses Wamu's noble warrior spirit against him, promising a much more interesting and worthy rematch if he gives Jojo 1 month to train. While the smart thing to do would be to kill Joseph and end the series right here, Wamu agrees. But as collateral, he offers the world's worst pinky promise. Wamu places the wedding ring of death right in Jojo's heart, which will release poison in 33 days, killing Joseph instantly. Marriage, am I right, guys? The only antidote is on Wamu's lip ring. Amused by the situation, AC/DC, the king of polyamory, places his own wedding ring on Joseph's windpipe. The Pillarmen then skyrocket away to observe the changes throughout the world. Meanwhile, Jojo and Caesar are about to start a training arc. Over in Venice, the boys need to get strong quick. Caesar's 2 years of experience at Dairy Queen finally pays off as he tests Jojo's Haman concentration. Realizing just how out of control Joseph's control is, the boys go to see Caesar's master to train them for the upcoming battle. They come across a gondolier, but this is Jojo, where nobody is normal. The gondolier puts a mask over Joseph's face and reveals themselves. This is lazily named Lisa, a master of Haman who will train the boys for the next month. Their first and potentially last task is to get through Hell Climb Pillar, a giant 24-meter stone column covered in oil. Many Haman users have died trying to climb it. Before Lisa can properly train them, the boys must be able to reach the top.
Wait a sec! Come back, Lisa! You wouldn't really leave me down here to rot just because I don't have enough power to climb out of here, would you?
That's gonna be awkward later. Caesar and Joseph start the climb. After figuring out the pillar's secret, the boys manage to climb up the top and are ready for the next lesson. Lisa introduces her hype men, Machina and Logs.
I can't even imagine how to do that.
Would you like to learn then?
Yes.
I want you to explain to me how turning water into jello and making bubbles are gonna stop a man who can turn his hands into tornadoes. This is the most circus clown group of main characters I've ever seen. Elsewhere, Cars talks to AC/DC about their ultimate goal. In order to become the perfect life forms and rule over the world, they must obtain the Red Stone of Asia. With its power to reflect light 1 billion times over, it will amplify the stone mass, allowing them to digivolve even further. And guess who's got it? Lisa.
Just break it. Yeah, crush the damn thing.
No, I can't do that.
Why? This series would literally be over in like 3 to 4 episodes if they just destroyed the very thing the main antagonist needs to get stronger. But oh, that's right, this is a shonen anime. We can't do things that make sense. That's not fun! After many days of harsh training, Joseph only has a week until the ring dissolves. For their final test, Jojo and Caesar must face Machina and Logs respectively in a 1v1 battle. While Caesar and Logs duke it out, Jojo walks into the arena only to see he's interrupting an intimate moment between Machina and it's AC/DC. Knowing Lisa has the Red Stone of Asia, AC/DC has no time to waste on his side piece. However, Jojo wants to spend time with his boo thang after so long.
AC/DC grabs Joseph, who able to pierce his skin in an attempt to break his arm. However, Joseph twists his body and reveals a string he attached to his own finger and Machina's corpse, which is pretty morbid when you think about it, but allows Joseph to cut off AC/DC's arm, and as AC/DC screams in pain, Joseph quotes Song Woo's Art of War, victory decided before the battle is fought.
Oh god. I don't feel so good. I miss Dio.
Haha, you fool! AC/DC and Song Woo were tight as fuck, so he knows all its quotes. AC/DC uses his flame mode, giving him access to flaming hentai tentacles. No, I'm not joking, but Joseph isn't scared as he plans to use the same string that he used before to snare him in a trap, but AC/DC's got the big brain, snapping Joseph's strings, but that was Joseph's plan all along, you smooth brain baboon. Looks like someone's never watched Rick and Morty. The string was just a decoy to distract from another set of strings attached. Joseph uses those strings to damage AC/DC and wins the fight along with one of the antidotes.
Now, to be fair, you have to have a very high IQ to understand a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Joseph heads back into the mansion to tell Lisa what happened, but she's in the middle of a bath, so Jojo's gonna have to wait a bit.
Nice.
Oh my god, that's gonna be very awkward later. In the middle of Jojo's HR violation, he sees Lisa talking to her maid Susie Q, who's not looking so good. AC/DC is still alive and took control of Susie Q's body. This is neither AC/DC nor Susie Q, it's ASDQ. ASDQ stole the Red Stone of Asia and sold it on eBay to a guy in Switzerland. Joseph and Caesar barge into the room to witness Susie Q in danger. However, Joseph can't have his love interest die this early. He and Caesar use their Haman to revert Susie Q back to normal and finally destroy AC/DC. They've defeated another Pillarmen, but there's no time to celebrate. Team Joestar head to Switzerland for the Red Stone of Asia. Team Joestar arrive in Switzerland, but are intercepted by the German army who found the Red Stone. Aware of their involvement with the Pillarmen, a familiar German soldier asks Team Joestar to come along with them for questioning. The fact that all of this is going on during World War II makes me think that Hitler just saw this as a side quest. At the hut, danger is just around the corner as the Pillarmen make their move for the stone. Cars performs a perfect sneak attack on the Germans, but his calculations didn't account for Stroheim the cyborg.
You utter fool!
Look, I hate the whole sub versus dub debate. This is my first time watching JoJo dubbed, and it's honestly pretty good, but man, the Japanese version just goes that extra mile. Because German science is the greatest in the world, Stroheim's strength is now twice that of Santana. But it's only child's play for Cars. With his light mode, he creates a chainsaw from his body that can cut bullets like butter. Cars finds the Red Stone, but Joseph and Stroheim do everything they can to prevent Cars from getting it. After a bunch of fourth dimensional big brain on 5 parallel universes ahead of you type strategies, Jojo manages to outsmart Cars and save the Red Stone. Does anyone know how to respond to that? Like, I literally have nothing. What the fuck is wrong with this series, and why do I like it so much? The next morning, Team Joestar find the Pillarmen's hideout. Caesar wants to go bubbles ablazing, but Joseph, knowing how fucking stupid Caesar's powers are, thinks it'd be suicidal. Caesar, frustrated with Joseph's cowardice, gets irrationally mad like he just saw how Americans make pizza for the first time, and goes on his own to fight the Pillarmen. As Caesar walks up to the Pillarmen's lair, he encounters Wamu, and the rematch commences the moment they lock eyes. Thanks to the grueling Haman training Caesar endured, his bubbles are able to stand toe-to-toe against Wamu's wind, as he even manages to deal severe damage to the Aztec warrior. Only in JoJo can bubbles beat tornadoes. Caesar may have gotten stronger, but Wamu's warrior spirit stands above all, finding the perfect moment to strike Caesar with his wind. It's very clear that Wamu won the fight, but Caesar's pride in his own family gives him the strength for one more desperate action. He grabs Wamu's antidote and uses the last of his Haman to keep the ring safe in a bubble of his own blood. Conveniently crushed by a cross-shaped stone, Caesar's appellee has died. Joseph and Lisa enter the scene only to see an empty room with a floating crimson bubble. Once they piece things together, both of them burst into tears as Joseph realizes he's lost his best friend. Joseph and Lisa venture further down and find the Pillarmen's lair, along with an army of vampires. Cars, the only sane person, wants to end the series ASAP. Thankfully, Lisa is also a master of lies and deceit. She tells Cars the red stone has a bomb, set to go off and destroy it. If they want the stone, they must fight each other on a 1v1. The winners will have the stone. Cars is pissed, but Wamu's shonen battle boner is absolutely excited to fight. It's Joseph versus Wamu and Lisa versus Cars. They arrive at the Skeleton Stonehill Arena. Joseph and Wamu will battle in a chariot race using vampire horses. How the hell did they turn horses into vampires? When the moon rises from the clouds, Joseph puts on Caesar's bandana and the race begins. This is probably the best fight in all of Part 2. Everything is on display. Jojo's bravery, tricks, and quick wits are put to the absolute limit against Wamu's powerful winds, godly strength, and unbreakable pride. While it may seem like Wamu has the upper hand, Joseph finds a way to turn the tides instantly.
I foolishly relied on my eyes because I was able to see.
Yes, Wamu. That's what eyes are for. Although he lost his sight, Wamu's senses sharpened tenfold, giving Joseph a harder fight than he'd imagined. But Jojo still finds a way to turn things around. Wamu, now broken and unable to move, still has one final trick up his sleeve. The final mode, Gathering Gale. Wamu unleashes a powerful burst of wind from his horn, slowly reaching towards Joseph's head. With Caesar's help, Jojo wins the battle. With the flaming bandana entering Wamu's body along with some oil, the noble Aztec warrior's body explodes from the inside. Wamu has been defeated. Wamu may be evil, but the fact he stuck to his noble warrior code, regardless of Cars' orders, no matter what, just makes him such a memorable antagonist compared to all the other ones we've had before. I'd even argue that Wamu is probably one of the top 10 best villains in the franchise. With 2 Pillarmen gone, all that remains is Cars, the creator of the stone mask. Okay guys, this is it. The final battle between Cars and Lisa. Honestly, I'm kind of scared because we really don't know a whole lot of what Cars is capable of, but I mean, Lisa is the one who trained Joseph and Caesar, who defeated the Pillarmen. So I mean, if they can do it, this fight shouldn't be too difficult for her. Get him, Lisa. Son of a bitch, I bet 50 on you. Cars never once cared for an honorable battle like Wamu. He used a double to trick Lisa and stab her from behind. All he cares for was the Red Stone of Asia. Cars orders his men to ambush Joseph. Jojo tries his best to fend them off, but his attacks barely even faze the vampires. Only in JoJo will you ever hear the phrase, "Oh, thank God the Nazis are here." As Joseph tries to save Lisa, he winds up in a pickle. Speedwagon and Smokey, why is he here? What can he honestly contribute to the situation? Speedwagon mentions that Lisa is JoJo's mother. Her real name was Elizabeth Joestar, the baby that Irina saved 50 years ago, who was raised by Straitso. She killed the vampire who slaughtered her husband George, and she ran away as an outlaw, unable to see her own child for 2 decades. Jojo finds a way to turn the tides and incapacitates Cars. All that's left is for the Germans to finish the job, but whoops! Cars has the stone mask with the red stone of Asia in it, and it's too late for them to hold off their attack as Cars becomes the ultimate life form, and now they're all doomed to die. Cars has now become the pinnacle of all creation. A man who once respected nature now mocks it, as he can create life at will, making cannibalistic squirrels from his hands. Am I reading that right? He actually does that? Jesus, okay. Only when the sun rises do the feeble humans realize just how fucked they are. Rather than writhing in pain from the sunlight, Cars welcomes the sunset with open arms. His greatest weakness has now become a luxury. There truly is nothing that can stop this creature. But Joseph Joestar, the man who's crawled through hell time and time again, easily figures out the solution to this great nightmare that looms over all.
Run for your life!
Joseph Joestar, proving once again why he's everyone's favorite main protagonist. Jonathan's dumbass would probably run headfirst into Cars and die instantly. I'm a gentleman. My honor as an Englishman would never allow me to run from a fight. Fuck out of here. Jojo steals a German warship and flies as far as he can from Cars, but the ultimate life form can make the impossible possible, shooting his feathers and then turning them into armadillo shells to bounce off bullets, then turning those feathers into piranhas and octopi. This series is making my brain hurt, dear lord. Despite the insanity of it all, Joseph has one final trick up his sleeve. This man slams an airplane into the ultimate life form towards an active volcano, and then when Cars tries to escape, your boy Stroheim comes in clutch with the save. If anyone says part 1 is better than part 2, I'm sorry, but you're just factually wrong. Jojo and Stroheim manage to escape just in the nick of time. As Cars burns in the boiling magma, the two walk away knowing they've finally won. We can't have nice things in JoJo, can we? Not only has Cars found a way to escape the volcano, the only thing in Joseph's arsenal now becomes useless, as even Cars can use Haman 100 times stronger than Joseph's. Jojo, faced with an impossible challenge like it's his first time playing Dark Souls, isn't sure of what to do next. As he lies on the ground coming to terms with his fate, the Red Stone of Asia comes in clutch. Because Araki screwed himself over, making an overpowered villain, he comes up with a bunch of random bullshit to stop Cars. It's so bizarre, even Joseph has no clue what's happening. Cars finds himself in space. He tries to head back down, but the cold abyss makes it impossible for Cars to move. Everything he tries just freezes around him as the ultimate life form becomes a rock, endlessly floating through the unknown realms of space as Cars stops thinking. Jojo has won. While he might have won, just like Jonathan, Joseph knows this is the end. On February 28th, 1939, Joseph Joestar has died. A few weeks later in New York, everyone gathers to mourn the loss of a great hero. Psych! Joseph Joestar is still alive, baby, and he just got back from his honeymoon with Susie Q, along with some cybernetic upgrades. We then get a cheesy "Where are they now?" segment. Smokey Brown becomes the mayor of his hometown in Georgia. Lisa eventually remarries with a Hollywood scriptwriter and even stars in her own 2-part light novel Rei Infinito by Junjo Shindo. Unfortunately, old age conquers all as Irina Joestar dies in 1950 surrounded by her loved ones. In 1952, Speedwagon loses his life, but not his virginity. Bachelor for life. In 1948, Stroheim died in battle. Honestly, as much as I love the guy, that's probably for the best. Thus concludes Joseph's story. Or does it? 48 years later in 1987, we see old man Joseph Joestar preparing for a flight to Tokyo as his daughter Holly fell in love with a Japanese musician. They moved to Japan 20 years ago without seeing her father and even had a son. I'm sure he's a respectable young man brimming with a bright personality, as Joseph heads on a flight to Tokyo to see his daughter and grandson. We close the page on JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 2, Battle Tendency.
That's the end of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 2, Battle Tendency. For real this time. When it comes to most forms of media, a lot of people say that the original is usually better than the sequel. But with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Part 2 just blows Part 1 out of the water, and it's not even close. Don't get me wrong, Phantom Blood was good and I did enjoy it, but you can really tell that Araki was truly feeling his own with this part. He definitely felt more confident, he more experienced with his writing, and just like the way that he made this story just so much better. The characters were more interesting, like Joseph has the nobility of Jonathan, but he just, he's more clever and he's like witty and hilarious, and just like everything about him just makes him way less one-dimensional compared to Jonathan, who the only thing you thought about him was like, oh, he's just very nice, kind, and strong as hell, And especially the side characters too. Stroheim, Caesar, Lisa, Smokey, Speedwagon, all the main villains, Cars, Wamu, AC/DC, like all of them were way more interesting than all the other cast in Part 1 besides Dio. Like Dio was probably the best part about Part 1. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you guys very much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, the whole YouTube shebang, and I'll see you in Part 3. Bye!